Piriformis syndrome is a common ailment that many people experience, and if you are one of those people, there are some things that you need to be changing about your workouts to make sure this doesn't get worse. On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're going to dive into what these things are and how to go about making those changes. We are going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared to building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie.
And Julie.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw me do something super cool with the the wire going to my headset. And if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, definitely check us out on YouTube. But that aside, okay, today we are discussing Piriformis syndrome. Not necessarily what it is, but changes that you need to make with your workouts if you want to make sure that what you are experiencing doesn't get worse. Because too often people go one of two routes when they're experiencing something like Piriformis syndrome. They either try to keep pushing through, doing what they've always done, or they decide to stop altogether. And neither of those are good options. So we're going to tell you what you need to change about your workouts instead.
That's right. So let's jump into what we want to see you manipulating with your workouts if you are struggling with Piriformis syndrome. And if you are struggling with Piriformis syndrome, it is probably likely that you have looked up some stuff, looked up some lists. So we're going to be modifying this, obviously, to make it customized to you. You know, we're always trying to make exercise in a way that is going to fit your needs wherever the state of your body is right now. So the first thing is stop doing exercises that make the pain feel worse while you're doing them. I know this seems like, well, duh, shouldn't we all do that? But for some reason, when we have something that kind of hurts and then we do some stuff that like highlights the hurt, sometimes our brains try to like interpret that as like, oh, well, maybe it's working its way out, or maybe, you know, like if I just yank on it hard enough or I feel it more when I work out, then it will feel better later. No. We want you to omit all the stuff that you're doing, especially in your workouts, that are highlighting the discomfort or highlighting the pain.
Yeah, this is not something you just try to push through. This really is the place to start, but for a lot of people, especially those who really want to get back to their activities, get back to exercising, it can be one of the most difficult things to do successfully. And if they aren't doing it successfully, it can be one of the primary reasons why the symptoms of Piriformis syndrome continue to linger. You got to stop doing the stuff that makes it worse while you are doing it. Now, there are some key kind of bits of language that we're using with this that really highlight important parts. Okay, the first is the idea that the pain is worse while you are doing activity. Okay, because there's a difference between doing an activity and then after you're done feeling more pain, more increase in symptoms and everything like that, versus an increase in symptoms immediately while you are doing the activity. Okay, those are two different things. And if it is more the former for you, where it feels okay while you're doing something and then after it feels worse, then what you need to change is how you're going about doing the thing that it is you're doing, how you're going about doing the activities, how you are going about doing the exercise, okay? And so that how is where the 4 Exercise for Life principles come into play. That helps you manipulate those variables. But we need to understand that kind of interpreting that difference in sensation in the onset of it, whether it's immediately while you're doing the activity or if it comes about after. If it's after, then change the hows of how you're going about doing the exercise.
Now, please note, we also have not said to stop exercising completely. A lot of times when we feel symptoms, we either, again, have like this two, I guess, schools of thought. Like, I should bring out the pain more, which we just talked about. Don't do stuff that brings out the pain more. But the other option is I should do nothing because I clearly have an issue, so I should do no exercising. We still want you exercising. It's a really important thing that you're keeping your muscles healthy and conditioned no matter what kind of symptoms or issues you are having. Of course, again, choosing exercises that don't highlight the discomfort. Now, if you fall in this boat where you're like, hey, okay, I'm going to be exercising, maybe you've YouTubed a little bit of something here or there, and you've seen an influencer be like, hey, these 10 exercises, make sure you're doing if you have piriformis syndrome. And you start doing that list of 10 exercises, and half of them bring out your discomfort. Remember, they might be giving you a general list. We're trying to get customized to your issue, because here's the deal. Piriformis syndrome is not the same for everyone. Something different causes piriformis syndrome in everyone, right? We all know your piriformis is probably hurting in some kind of similar way, but it doesn't mean that the steps that got you there were the same, or the weaknesses that got you there were the same. So make sure, even if you're doing piriformis labeled exercises or stretches or movements with your body, that they're still feeling good and productive for your body. Because again, you want to be intuitive and listen to your own body and make sure you're responding appropriately. So when your body's giving you those pain signals, you're honoring and respecting, like, hey, my body doesn't seem to like that today. Maybe tomorrow it will, but today it's a no-go. So make sure you're staying active, you're staying exercising, and you're omitting the exercises that create more or exaggerated pain in your piriformis.
Hey, Julie, that last point is really key. And what's interesting is we can see it very, very clearly with other health-related issues. Meaning, if you have food allergies, okay, and you're around peanuts, or you have peanuts, and all of a sudden your throat starts swelling up, okay, so that's one scenario. Another scenario is you have an allergy to a shellfish, and you're around shellfish, or you have some shellfish, and your throat starts swelling up, okay? It would be like, getting a list from online saying, if your throat is swelling up, here are the things that you need to avoid. It's like, well, okay, but one was caused by peanuts, the other was caused by shellfish. And so just because the end symptom is the same doesn't mean that how you got there is the same. So just because you find a list online that says, if you have piriformis syndrome, then you need to do X, Y, Z. It's like the end symptom may be the same, but how you got there is not the same, okay? And so that is why, like, being able to really kind of tune in and listen to your body and understand, all right, what's my body telling me as far as, like, right now, this thing is making me worse versus after the fact, or this doesn't have any effect as far as, like, making symptoms worse. That is a really, really big key to understanding how to go about navigating activity and exercise in a way that doesn't continually make things worse for you, okay? So that's number one, is stop doing the things that make the pain worse while you're doing them. Number two is you need to shift your focus to doing exercise that builds or rebuilds your body, and away from exercise that simply uses your body, okay? This is a differentiation of thinking about all the stuff that's going on around and outside of your body while you're doing the exercise versus really focusing on what's going on within your body while you're doing the exercise. So some examples, if you are going and working out and you are more caught up in the music or the choreography of the class or the energy in the room and everything like that, you're doing exercise that uses your body because you're focused on stuff that's outside of your body, okay? If you're focused on the reps or the amount of weight that you're using or the distance that you are running or the speed with which you're biking, your cadence, whatever it is, all of that is stuff that is outside of your body. Instead, you need to shift your focus to what's going on within your body, okay? How your muscles are squeezing, how your joints are moving, the feedback that your body is giving you while you're doing the exercise. That is where you need to be placing your focus, and you'll be aligning yourself more with doing exercise that builds or rebuilds your body versus just simply doing exercise that uses your body.
That's right. So when you think about these internal versus external exercises, you can kind of think about, am I having an internal goal, meaning improve certain muscles, improve motions, improve how my body's feeling and functioning, versus do I have an external focus or external goal, like get reps in, just count them out, or follow the class, or go for a faster time, or go for an intentionally slower time because it's a recovery day or something. So you want to really, again, focus in on that internal function. And reason being is that most times when you have a syndrome or a symptom, this area is getting taxed, fatigued, inflamed, irritated, because something in your body is not functioning properly. And so this area is now taking on a giant amount of stress that it doesn't normally take on. And so when we think about exercising, we want to have a dramatic shift into building the strength and function of all the muscles and joints, because we know something is failing, something isn't doing well that is causing this area, specifically the piriformis muscle, to be really overused and overstressed, overtaxed, inflamed. We know that's the state of the muscle. And so shifting your exercise from using your body, which has an external focus, to building or rebuilding your body, which has an internal focus, will really help gear your exercise towards helping your body support this area and support the healing of this area, and also so that this area isn't being overworked and overtaxed anymore. So again, thinking about shifting your exercise from being just randomly active, doing your normal stuff, to, okay, I really need to start rebuilding and building the strength and function of my body and my muscles.
Exactly. Okay, so that is the second thing that we recommend you changing about your workouts, which leads us right into the third thing, which is while you are doing each exercise, you need to prioritize your muscle contraction over the motion or the number of reps that you're doing, okay? Prioritize contracting and focusing on squeezing your muscles, making that mind-muscle connection really, really dialed in on the squeeze, on the contraction throughout the entire rep, throughout the entire range while you're doing the exercise, over trying to do more motion or trying to get the exact motion that you're trying to do, or trying to do more reps, more volume, just trying to get, all right, you just got to finish this last set and get 3 or 4 more reps in or anything like that, okay? The muscle contraction is the thing that not only is going to drive the health changes for you and the strength changes and everything else that you're wanting, but it is also going to be the thing that keeps you safe while you're doing the exercise, that is going to give you a better chance of leaving that exercise feeling symptom-free or having a reduction in your symptoms versus trying to get more motion or more reps or anything like that.
Yeah, and the muscle contraction that we're talking about is whatever area or motion that you are challenging. We're not specifically saying focus on the contraction of the piriformis. So remember, we're saying, hey, you got to be strengthening everywhere to support this area that is getting overtaxed. So for example, if you are going to do a glute exercise, you're focusing on squeezing your glutes, not necessarily forcing extra motion. This is also something that we see a lot when people do have issues. Like, for example, you might do a glute exercise and notice that you have a limited motion. Like your body starts giving you symptoms when you get halfway through your squat. And instead of respecting that and saying, hey, yeah, I am recovering right now, I'm focusing on my glutes, it's not irritating my piriformis, but when I go deeper, then it does start irritating my piriformis. A lot of times, again, we like to force that motion because we think, well, no pain, no gain. How will I ever regain that motion if I never practice it? So we want to see that you're focusing on the squeeze of the muscle tissue rather than gaining more and more motion. And what we find is that the more that you're focused on that muscle squeeze, the more your body gives you in terms of range, in terms of reps, which would be kind of like endurance, right? Like how many reps can I do? Just by taking your focus from getting big range or getting lots and lots of reps to, can I squeeze this tissue? Can I control this tissue? And this would apply, again, to all the areas that you're going to work. Glutes, if you're working ab and adductors, you're working quads and hamstrings, any area that you are focusing on strengthening, which you should be doing a total body strengthening routine, you're thinking about squeezing and connecting to that muscle tissue.
Exactly. So if you're hearing this and you're wondering, okay, well, how do I go about really prioritizing that contraction, focusing on the squeeze? This is where the 4 Exercise for Life principles come into play, okay? Because they are all designed to help you have a better opportunity and better ability to focus on squeezing your muscles while you are doing the exercise. And this is also where something like muscle activation techniques can come into play, because a lot of times we don't have the awareness levels that we need throughout different areas of our body in order to really make a strong mind-muscle connection while we're doing each exercise. But through the MAT process, you can start to become more and more aware of the different groups of muscles that you have and how to connect with each of those muscles and how to feel those muscles squeeze and contract. And then you can carry that in to your exercise, all right? A lot of people before they start getting MAT done, they will do an exercise and they'll just feel some kind of general fatigue or just kind of general use of an area. But through the MAT process, as they start to become more and more aware of certain areas, certain groups of muscles within their body, now all of a sudden they can go and they can do that exercise and they can hyper focus on really locking in on squeezing their muscles, making that mind-muscle connection, maintaining that mind-muscle connection throughout their entire workout, okay? And so I know we talk a lot on this podcast about the different benefits of MAT from an injury prevention perspective, from an injury recovery, and just kind of general recovery perspective, and that's all true. But a side benefit that we have also seen of MAT is a greater awareness of what's going on within our bodies when we are doing exercise, when we are moving throughout our day and just kind of doing our daily activities.
The other thing that MAT will be awesome for is that idea of bringing that awareness, but also helping the areas around the piriformis create a more healing environment for the piriformis. If you're listening to this, it's probably not your first stop of trying to address your own piriformis issue. And we see this a lot where we're directly addressing the piriformis and we're trying to release it and we're trying to get it less symptomatic. But oftentimes it takes someone stepping back and saying, hey, this whole body environment or this hip environment is really stressing out this tissue. We need to get the entire hip stronger or the entire core stronger or whatever, might be your ailment or your hidden weakness that is causing this piriformis to become overtaxed and stressed and inflamed. So make sure you find your local MAT specialist. If you have been especially exercising on your own and you're noticing some improvements, but you're like, I really feel like there's something missing here, you want to get in with your local MAT specialist because they'll be able to really fine-tune what you need to work on and look below and more specific than just general recommendations.
So if you're experiencing piriformis syndrome and you want to make sure that what you're doing isn't making things worse, the 3 changes that we recommend you making are, number 1, stop doing things where it feels worse while you're doing it in the moment, okay? Number 2 is while you're doing your exercise, shift from just trying to use your body to get through the workout to actually using the workout to build or rebuild your body. And number 3 is while you're doing each exercise, focus on prioritizing the muscle contraction over trying to do more motion, trying to do more reps, anything like that, okay? And again, that boils down to utilizing the 4 Exercise for Life principles and changing how you're going about doing each exercise. If you would like our guidance on implementing the 4 Exercise for Life principles within your workouts, that's exactly what we teach you to do within the Exercise for Life membership. You can get access to the entire membership, all the workouts, all the programs, everything in there for free for the next 30 days by going to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. And if you're in the Chicagoland area and would like to get your body assessed with muscle activation techniques to figure out where within your body you have muscles that aren't working as well as they should, maybe causing the piriformis to have to overwork or to have those areas stressed out more than you would like them to be, then all you have to do to find our availability and get on our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com. There's a big green button that says Get Started. You can click that. You can see when we're available and you can book yourself for your initial consultation and assessment. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is experiencing piriformis syndrome, is kind of at their wits' end about what to do about it and how to not make it feel worse? Share this episode with them so they can understand the 3 changes that we recommend being made to their workouts and what they're doing to help them do just that. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to us and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.